Well, as we saw in this past election, sadly, we ain't ready. That's why I'm like, don't even look at me about running, because you all are lying. You're not ready for a woman. You are not. So don't waste my time.
Of all the ways America continues to divide itself, nowhere is it more pronounced than in gender. And until the Democrats come to grips with that, they won't have much success winning elections. Let's just put it out there. Women are the Democrats' base, and men who get hit in the head for a living are Trump.
Bill Maher just dialed up the intensity with a sharp critique of Michelle Obama, and the exchange quickly caught fire. On Real Time, Maher took aim at the former First Lady's recent remarks about gender bias in American elections. Michelle Obama's comments have sparked plenty of headlines, but Maher didn't merely disagree. He methodically challenged her claims, pointing out what he sees as glaring double standards. The discussion escalated fast, setting the stage for a heated and highly charged moment that grabbed everyone's attention.
They're the bro party, the party of car shows on the White House lawn and breaking, seeing what happens, and busting balls and shooting stuff like beer and laws. Oh, yeah. It's been that way for a long time, the mommy party and the daddy party, the party of pussy hats and the party of truck nuts.
Maher begins by highlighting the growing gender divide in U.S. politics, a trend he argues should concern everyone. When one gender overwhelmingly aligns with one party and the other goes the opposite direction, he says that's not progress, it's polarization. Maher makes his position clear, celebrating that divide solves nothing. But that's only the starting point. What really frustrates him are arguments from the political left, recently echoed by Michelle Obama, suggesting the country is fundamentally biased against women in presidential races. Maher flatly rejects that idea, calling it a misleading narrative that ignores reality and deepens division. When the clip plays, he doesn't hold back, responding with blunt clarity and zero hesitation.
I mean, her statement, I was rather shocked by it.
Yeah.
She said, as we saw in the past election, sadly, we ain't ready. Okay, to me, this is logical fallacy 101. Just because we weren't ready or didn't like the candidates, Hillary and Kamala, doesn't mean we're not ready for a woman. Maybe. I think it's a bad attitude. I do. I mean, we said we weren't ready for a black president, and someone, I can't remember who, maybe she remembers.
Maher dismantles Michelle Obama's argument by focusing on what he sees as its logical flaws. In his view, losses by candidates like Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris don't prove voters aren't ready for a female president. They simply show those campaigns failed to connect. Maher stresses that voters don't cast ballots based on gender. They vote based on trust, relatability, and whether a candidate understands their concerns. Labeling electoral defeats as sexism, he argues, dismisses voters and oversimplifies complex decisions. Americans aren't rejecting women, he says. They're rejecting messages, policies, and personalities that don't resonate.
I need to take a moment to talk about Michelle Obama's hair.
Well, I didn't really have that choice as First Lady.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
Every day, every time I was up, as we called it, I was up for the public.
Yes.
And the days were long. So, as you mentioned, to save time.
Yes.
I know having a glam team, a trifecta, it feels like a luxury, because rare is the woman that can live off the rack.
No one can live off the rack. I'm sorry, but you have to subject yourself.
Michelle Obama often speaks about the challenges women face in the public eye, positioning herself as a voice for those struggles. Critics, however, argue that her focus on personal experiences, particularly the pressures of visibility and scrutiny, sometimes overshadows her broader message. Maher points out what he sees as a contradiction. She insists women are fully capable of leading the nation, yet frequently emphasizes how exhausting public expectations can be. While those experiences may be genuine, Maher argues they unintentionally distract from her point. For him, it comes across less as empowerment and more as carefully managed political messaging.
How rich have they become since they left office? I mean, this is the deal,
Hundreds
right?
of millions.
They serve their country on a not insignificant sum of money. I think it's about $400,000 a year the president gets. and they live in unparalleled luxury the entire time they're in office. And when they leave, they make hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. Has anyone got a tiny violin for me that I can start playing here?
Yes. And
Ridiculous!
Not for nothing, but did you see that hideous outfit she was wearing? I've just never met somebody so ungrateful in all my life. And what did she start it off with? People said I was hateful. Because you are. She can't stand America. She definitely can't stand Barack. And I don't think she likes herself very much either.
Megyn Kelly cuts straight to the heart of why voters didn't rally behind Kamala Harris and why, in her view, Michelle Obama would face similar resistance. Her explanation is direct and unsparing.
So she's been doing this nonstop tour, and I just think there's a strain. She's woke, he's woke.
Yeah.
There's a strain in the woke that leads you to be absolutely miserable, which is why they too should be praying for woke to die.
Kelly argues that both figures symbolize a brand of hyper-progressive politics that many Americans feel worn down by. Instead of centering on core concerns, like the economy, public safety, stability, and national strength, she says the focus often drifts toward symbolic or cultural issues that feel disconnected from everyday life. According to Kelly, this emphasis on identity-driven messaging doesn't build confidence, pushes voters away. She also notes the contradiction many people see, criticizing America while benefiting immensely from it. To critics, that disconnect matters. In this view, gender isn't the barrier. Messaging, priorities, and perceived distance from reality are.
Let me explain something to white people. Our hair comes out of our head naturally in a curly pattern. So when we're straightening it to follow your beauty standards, we are trapped by the straightness. That's why so many of us can't swim and we run away from the water. People won't go to the gym because we're trying to keep our hair straight for y'all. Braids are for y'all so we can work harder and focus on the work. So why do we need an act, an act of law to tell white folks to get out of our hair?
I shared this clip because it highlights another reason Michelle Obama's public image has lost traction with some Americans: her consistent focus on racial identity. Critics say race often sits at the center of her messaging, sometimes eclipsing broader policy discussions. They argue that this repetition feels overemphasized and predictable. What frustrates them most is the contrast with earlier progressive ideals that promoted moving beyond race to achieve equality. Instead, they see Michelle placing race at the core of nearly every political narrative. That fixation, critics argue, is why she's often labeled as woke, not because she ignores race, but because she centers everything around it.
Well, as we saw in this past election, sadly, we ain't ready. That's why I'm like, don't even look at me about running, because you all are lying. You're not ready for a woman. You are not. So don't waste my time. You know, we got a lot of growing up to do. And there's still, sadly, a lot of men who do not feel like they can be led by a woman, and we saw it. I think we still have growing to.
Many critics counter Michelle Obama's claims by saying the issue isn't that voters need to evolve, but that candidates must meet real-world expectations. Voters don't support someone simply because of gender. They support ideas, competence, and results. That's the point they believe Michelle overlooks. People want leaders who address everyday struggles: jobs, affordability, safety, and stability. Had Kamala Harris stepped away from heavy ideological framing and focused more on these concerns, critics argue she might have gained broader support. Her loss, they say, wasn't about fear of female leadership. It was about substance. Elections are won by leadership, not labels.
Someone must tell the usual suspects on the far left that the saying is, when you're in a hole, stop digging, not keep digging. Talk about doubling down on what got you in the first place. Even the one concession I've heard a few people on the losing side offer, that liberals should stop saying the Trump voters are stupid, comes with a kind of unspoken parentheses. We know they are stupid, just don't say.
Maher believes comments like Michelle Obama's only deepen voter frustration and may help explain recent Democratic losses. He argues the party repeatedly undermines itself by leaning into divisive narratives instead of reassessing what voters actually want. Rather than learning from defeat, leaders appear to double down on the same messaging. Michelle's remarks, in his view, symbolize that pattern. Many voters don't see her comments as insightful. They see them as proof the party isn't listening. By prioritizing identity-driven themes over economic pressure, border issues, affordability, and family concerns, Maher argues Democrats continue to alienate key voters.
You wear Queers for Palestine t-shirts and masks 2 years after the pandemic ended. And you can't define woman, I mean person who menstruates. You're the teachers' union education party, and you've turned schools and colleges into a joke. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person.
Maher also revisits why Kamala Harris struggled politically, insisting it had little to do with her being a woman. According to him, voters rejected her politics, not her gender. He says many Americans have grown tired of what they perceive as an increasingly ideological agenda that doesn't reflect mainstream priorities. From foreign policy stances to cultural initiatives that critics view as excessive, Maher argues voters felt uneasy about the direction. In his assessment, the electorate wasn't confused or irrational. It simply didn't want more ideological experimentation. The outcome, he says, was about trust and priorities, not sexism.
You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to both. The Democratic polling firm Blueprint told Democrats months ago that black voters, aka their supposedly liberal base, were more likely to find the president too liberal than too conservative. They also found that voters didn't just want Harris to distance herself from Biden, they wanted her to distance herself from what they believe the entire Democratic Party has become, a Portlandia sketch.
Some commentators add that even within the Democratic base, frustration is growing. While many voters still support the party, that doesn't mean they feel fully represented. Critics argue the party has drifted from focusing on economic opportunity, safety, and practical progress towards symbolism and cultural messaging. That dissatisfaction continues to build. So when Michelle Obama suggests voters reject women because of gender bias, critics say she misses the real issue. Voters aren't turning away from female candidates. They're turning away from policies and messages that don't align with their daily realities. The debate isn't about identity. It's about substance. And until leadership reflects that, trust will continue to erode. That brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe for more commentary. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.